Let me call to order the meeting of the Highlands Board of Commissioners for September 19th, 2024. The first item will be a moment of silence. I ask that you join with me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, if we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Our next item, number 3, is the statement of conflict of interest. That is in your agenda packet. If any board member has any conflict on any of the proceedings that we will be taking action on tonight, I encourage them, of course, to declare that conflict. Hearing none, let me go on to the next item. That'll be public comment. I've tried to communicate with the public tonight. Of course, anyone can make any statement that they would like to make. On the other hand, we did have a public hearing and we've been taking email statements concerning amortization of short-term rentals. I would request if you have spoken before, consider not making a further comment unless there is something that we have missed, some new idea that needs to be shared with the public and this board. So at this time, I will open up the floor for public comment if people will come and speak. And I appreciate everybody holding their comments to 3 minutes. So if anyone would like to make a public comment, the floor is open. Okay, hearing none, I will move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is to review and approve the agenda. Do I have any changes or additions to the proposed agenda?
Move it be approved as.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Thank you. All right, the next item, number 6, will be the approval of the August 15th regular meeting minutes. Do we have any corrections or clarifications to those minutes?
Move to be approved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and indicate by saying aye. Thank you. The next item would be the approval of the September 21st, 2003 closed session meeting minutes. Do we have any changes?
So moved.
Okay,
I wasn't at that meeting, so.
okay. Have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, indicate by saying aye. Thank you. And then finally, the approval of the April 18th, 2024 closed session minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Okay. The next item will be the report, starting with the mayor's report. And I want to just recognize Commissioner Steeler in how he organized a wonderful Town of Highlands scholarship golf tournament this week. I had an opportunity to go and be with the golfers when they came in, and I want to thank several other people. One would be the Jim and Mike Bryson for their support. They've made a commitment to cover all the extra costs of putting on the golf events and so forth. And that's really a wonderful contribution. And I also want to thank the Colisaja Club for putting on a wonderful event and had an excellent course in great shape. And then, of course, the 29 teams, the participants, they did a great job. And I'm not going to say anything further about that, and I'll let Commissioner Steeler talk about the fundraising part of that and what he would like to say about the tournament. I will just say a couple of things else. I had a great meeting with Mark Letson, who is the chairman of the Jackson County Board of Commissioners. We met this past week, talked about very common concerns facing Highlands, Cashiers, Jackson County, and Macon County, especially the issue of traffic and roads. Over in Cashiers, they've got a lot of needed improvements on their roads, and I'm on the Transportation Advisory Committee of the Regional Planning Commission, along with Commissioner Letson, and we'll be working together to address some of those traffic concerns. So that's all that I have. So I'm going to turn it over to the commissioner's report. And Brian, why don't you start?
Okay, I got a couple things here. So one is, as the mayor alluded to, Monday, the Coliseum Club hosted the scholarship golf tournament, and it was, I just want to say it was a success in every way imaginable. So the condition of the golf course was spectacular, and I really want to express appreciation to the membership and leadership of the club. A lot of people always think that when it comes to golf, that it's easy to, it's easier for these clubs to donate the golf course for a day to whatever charity is of their choice. But when you have 100 members that are paying a lot of dues that go to access that amenity, it's nothing to take lightly. So I just think that's something that as the town, we need to be very grateful for these clubs that are willing to host us. So in total, and Kim reported this in her paper this morning, that we doubled the amount of money that was raised from years past. So in years past, we would raise about $25,000. This past Monday, we raised about $50,000 that went to the scholarship fund. So that's fantastic. It was a record for the golf tournament. So the people I want to thank, one is my partner in crime, Rebecca Schuler, who's probably not here today, who's done a fantastic job in helping organize this year after year, and taking the endless phone calls that come along with that. And then obviously Jeff has played a role in that too, and being there for us with getting everybody organized. And then of course the people I want to thank the most are Jim and Mike Bryson for everything they did for this event in covering all of our expenses, and this new partnership that we developed that's going to benefit the Highlands School graduates for years to come. So they took an annual event that would bring in about $25,000 a year and doubled that. So we are already anticipating next year's event is set for September 15th at Coliseum Club, and I am really excited about that. So I will say, again, we doubled what we did in years past, and next year we're committed to doing the same or more. And again, couldn't do it without all those people that I mentioned. So the other thing I wanted to give you a brief update, and this is from Commissioner Weller and myself, is that we did miss the first round of the PARTIF grants that we were committing, where we were hoping we would commit to about $500,000 to our project, but there is an accessibility and parks grant that still has $4 million to give out. So they didn't give out their total funds for the this past year. So they reopened their grant process, accepting applications on, I think it was, June or August 3rd, September 3rd, I think it was. And so we have the Southwest Commission has agreed to write that grant for us, which is very generous. Franklin was awarded a $500,000 PARTIF grant for their playground, and unfortunately, this is kind of a regional thing, so it's unlikely that once a grant's given in Western North Carolina, that anybody else would receive that. So Franklin received that, but on a positive note, I would like to say from Commissioner Well and I that we have raised to date $930,000, and our goal for the end of the fall to have over $1 million in the bank for this project, and hopefully that $4 million that's still to give out will occur sometime in the spring, and hopefully we'll be successful and can move forward on the project.
Any other
Yeah.
reports?
I was just going to mention one thing. Thank you, Brian. You got the update on the playground. I do want to mention, if you ever want to head up something, do it with Brian, because Brian deserves 99% of the credit. Other than getting a few sponsors here and there and players signed up, Brian and of course Rebecca did all of the work. So all the credit goes to Brian on this. So.
Thank you. Any other
Negative.
updates?
I disagree.
You don't want to get stuck with everybody's
Yeah, I don't want-
project.
Okay. Okay, we'll hear the report from our town manager, Josh Ward.
I was notified this week from the North Carolina Department of Transportation that Highway 106 will be closed this Sunday at 9 PM until Monday at 7 PM for a culvert replacement. And that culvert replacement will be between Turtle Pond Road and Blue Valley Overlook. So again, Highway 106 will be closed this Sunday, 9 PM till Monday morning at 7 AM.
Okay. All right.
Big Bear Pin paving, road paving, the contractor for the DOT started paving yesterday in the rain. We were up there today. They started at the top, so they're making some headway. They were hoping to get finished this week. I don't know if the weather, if they will finish up tomorrow or not. That project is coming to an end. It's
Who's
gonna be,
doing the paving on that? I'm sorry.
uh,
Is it Bryson or somebody, the Silver
it's
Group?
someone else
Okay.
that's doing that. And also the town's paving, street paving will start sometime in mid-October. And Bryson's Paving did get the contract for that. And I talked to Ryan today and he said they're hoping to get started by like the 15th of October there. So
Okay.
I had a question for you, John. Have we engaged a code enforcement officer?
yes, we have. We've made an offer. So
They're not on board yet.
Not yet.
Okay. But we're moving in the right direction.
Yes.
One other question is what is the status of the Arnold Road paving?
So it's going forward. It was part of the bidding for the paving that we did.
Okay.
I think the mayor has made contact with Old Edwards Inn as well as Highlands Country Club.
Yeah, Old
Give an
Edwards has
update.
made a financial commitment of $30,000,
Good.
and I'm waiting to hear from the Highlands Country Club.
Okay. I don't know anybody
Okay.
associated with them, but I'll.
Okay. All right. And we will bear the lion's share of this.
Yeah, I think the bid for that was like 138,000.
Yeah.
So
That's the total cost of the project.
total cost.
Okay.
And like I say,
Okay.
Old Edwards, you said 30,000, Mayor.
Right. Mhm.
That's what Old Edwards had.
Has committed.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Josh. The next item will be the consent agenda. Do we have any questions concerning the information in the consent agenda? Hearing
Move,
no-
move, we approve the consent agenda.
Second, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item will be proposal amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance, section 6.5.18, amortization of short-term rentals within R1 and R2 zoning districts. I will open up the discussion and, we have already had the public hearing and we'll be ready for final action. And I just want to make this statement and hopefully I'll get your support. But someone has just made me aware that, for example, Save Highlands is again raising funds on GoFundMe to advance their legal action against the town, which is that stay is coming to an end on October the 1st. I suspect there'll be other funding initiatives and sources in any litigation against the amortization amendment if we pass this tonight. I would support a motion at this time that the town board will accept no outside funding sources for the town legal defenses concerning this amortization amendment. So if anybody has any questions or would like to make that
Why?
motion, why?
Yeah.
Wow.
I will tell you why. I think that this is a zoning decision and the idea that someone would give us money to support this defense puts us in kind of a, very difficult, situation.
So when the town took $400,000 from residents on Bowery to annex property to get the road paved, that was
Um,
wrong?
That's, to me, a different thing. And yes, we do have people that make contributions for, infrastructure improvements and things like that. And I understand that is for the overall general public, but in this case.
This is not.
This is, I think, an amendment to a zoning issue. And I think that, if we, were to say that we will take money, if we pass this so we can defend this, I think that puts us in a very difficult
Well,
decision.
Bob is, our lawyer's already told us we can legally do that.
Which lawyers?
That lawyer right there.
Okay. Bob, would you like to respond?
Not really. So I think this really is more about you deciding what's appropriate in the optics. I can't think of a strong legal argument that taking contributions, well, let me back up a second. First of all, people can make charitable donations to a local government. And in fact, they usually are tax deductible. So I'll just say that at the outset, but I can see how some would perceive accepting funds to provide a defense of a particular legal decision. I could see that working its way into a lawsuit and be something we would have to deal with. What I would think you don't want to do is that financial offers influenced what might be a controversial decision where there are winners and losers, right? There are going to be, based on how you vote, there are going to be some people who like that vote, some people who don't like that vote, some people who think that they've won, and some that think they have lost. And I can't tell you that it's illegal to accept financial support to defend a town decision, but I encourage you to think through the optics and the perception of that.
Okay.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with Bob. I think what we've got is a very divisive scenario at this point, and that is just gonna add fuel to the fire.
Okay.
So I
Is that something you need to vote on tonight, or is that something that we just see how it plays out, but I don't?
I would like to see a vote saying that before we take this vote, that we would not be accepting outside support. And I understand that people give money for infrastructure stuff, but what happens if a developer
But the
comes
town
to us?
required that
I
they
know,
did
but
it,
what
so
happens
we're
if it-
gonna hit for that.
But let me say this, Eric. What happens if a developer comes and says, oh, this might be controversial, but I want you to vote for this on a zoning issue, and then I'll cover your legal expenses? That just, to me, makes me feel very uneasy. If we're going to vote on this tonight, we will have to, I think, be willing to incur the tax obligation if we have to defend this. And, the public, at the end of the day, always elects, representatives. But I just think that, that from a optic standpoint, as Bob has said, this is what we should do. But
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a resolution or offer that, we have a resolution that the town does not accept personal funds, outside funds, public funds for proceeding with this,
private funds.
private funds,
private funds. Okay,
proceeding with this action.
okay. Do I have,
I'll second that because
Okay.
if we're going to do it, let's own it. I mean,
all right,
Yeah, I'll go with that because it's not gonna change my opinion, so.
okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, would you please raise your hand, signify by saying aye? Okay, okay.
I think the town did it in one instance, so there's no reason not to do it.
Oh, you're opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. Yes, all right. Now, the next item or the next step would be, we have had the public hearing, we've had a discussion of this, and we have the amendment in our packet on amortization. Is there any further discussion before we call for the vote?
Well, Michael's up.
Michael, go ahead.
Mayor, I just want to touch, I'm not going to read my memo again. Obviously,
Okay.
I've read it a few different times. I will say, speak to the process. So on July 22nd, 2024, the planning board did review this amendment and they gave their recommendation. On September 5th, 2024, we had advertised and held a public hearing in this building. So at this point, everything has followed the legal process for a vote here tonight. I do want to add that whether the board decides to approve or deny the proposed ordinance amendment, it must be recognized that the proposed amendment is consistent with the town's community plan or comprehensive plan. And a copy of that statement of consistency is in your agenda packet tonight.
Okay.
So would you like a motion before discussion or discussion before the motion?
Why don't we have discussion and then have a motion?
Okay.
All
So
right.
sometimes you have the motion to know what specifically you're discussing.
Okay.
Okay,
Do we have any further discussion?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, for some reason my voice is going today. I'm specifically for the amortization process because I think it's important that we limit the SDRs. I think we sometimes forget about why we're doing something and when we get down in the nitty gritties and deciding how much it's going to cost and what it's going to do and that kind of thing. So let me just say, 2 years ago, the Bascom had a exhibit called Sense of Place. And it was about Highlands. And it was done in conjunction with the Land Trust. And it was a lot of photography or photographs that gives you the sense of place of Highlands. This past spring, the Laurel magazine had a cover art and a story on the spirit of place. If you go right out of town here, just outside town where billboards are still up, there's a billboard from a realty group that says, "Find your happy." I think we're doing that. And one of the questions that was brought up at the public hearing was, why are we doing this? What problem are we trying to solve? Well, the problem is we have a lot of unhappy residents. They feel abandoned. They feel irritated. They feel aggrieved. They feel like they don't know what to do. They've spent the last 4 years trying to get our attention and saying this is a problem in our neighborhood. They no longer feel the sense of place, the spirit of place, or they don't have their happy anymore because they're living next to a nuisance in their mind that is never going to get any better because you don't have a learning curve. You can call people out all you want. Of course, nobody wants to do that because we're raised with the bad connotation of being a tattletale or a snitch. So nobody wants to do that. So they're left with the stress and the aggravation. Number one, not knowing if they're going to have anybody next door to them that is bad. And then that they do, they're always on the lookout. So we have a lot of residents who are upset about this, who do not want this. So I'm asking you, we have residents on one side and we have visitors on the other side. We've gotten a lot of letters from visitors who, I don't know how much skin they have in the game, but it's like, okay, you like to come here. But one of the reasons you like to come here is it's a really nice place. And it's a really nice place mainly because the residents have made it that way. When they decide to visit here and then come back here and live here, it's not because it's just beautiful. It's because we have a social and a cultural and a natural environment that makes it conducive to you want to be part of the community. And the community is not just made by where we are, it's made by the people and it's made by the residents. And we have a really long history in Highlands of the residents making our community. It's 150 years old, our community, right? Well, we have the oldest, if not one of the oldest, public libraries in the state of North Carolina because the resident gave it to us. We have Satula Mountain because in 1909, the residents got together and pooled their money and gave it and bought it, and then gave it to the land trust, not to the town, but to the land trust So it's always accessible to residents and visitors alike. A few years later, Ravenel Park, which is Sunset and Sunrise Rock, which is advertised on the Chamber of Commerce website, was given so that residents and visitors alike can come and do it and see it. In the 90s, there was another campaign to raise money from the residents to buy more of Satula so that you didn't have houses on this end of Satula. Because Satula, if you look at it from the town, it looks short, but if you look at it from the east or the west, it's actually a really long ridge. And so you bought the other end of the ridge so that you didn't have all that overlooking the town. In the 90s, a landowner on Satula gave property that adjoins all that so that you kept that mountain environment, whether it's from the ecological point of view or the view shed or anything else, in place. Dixon Woods, residents gave us that, and the land trust now takes care of it. Brushy Face Preserve, residents gave us that. The Kelsey Trail, residents gave us that. In the last 2 years, a resident has given us the land trust that the part of the trail that crossed private property as it went up onto Sherwood Forest, to the Sherwood Forest Road, so that all those people who like to walk from Highlands Falls can come in. Residents did all that to us. In 1927, the residents started the Highlands Biological Station and built the laboratory, got the land, built the nature center, and the now called, it was originally called the Highlands Natural History Museum and Laboratory. It's now called the Highlands Biological Foundation. They don't own the property anymore because they had to give it to the state, but they still run the nature center. Free to everybody. They give them free classes for adults, free classes for children. It's open. You can come in, you can walk up Sunset and come down and use the bathroom there. I mean, and the residents not only gave all that, they support that every year. This is not something that doesn't require money to run, but the residents are the people who are actually supporting that. And it's open to residents and visitors alike. You have everything, if you think about it. Kelsey Hutchison Park, bought and developed by money given by the residents. Okay. The Bascom, bought, built, and supported every year by money given by the residents. The PAC, which is both the chamber music, the community players, and I guess the Highlands Playhouse and whoever else might be in there, all supported, built, and supported by the residents. You have the Literacy Council, you have the CLE, which gives you part of your cultural and social environment. Those are all things done by the residents, and they don't just give money. They give their time, their talent, their leadership, their expertise. They give a dedication and an enthusiasm that we wouldn't have any of that in this town if we didn't have these residents. So I think the residents are very, very valuable. We're asking them to give money to the playground. And they will. You've already raised a whole bunch of money from them. They will, because the residents feel committed to this town. And suddenly they're saying, oh, but wait, the town is not committed to us. What happened to our happy place? What happened to our sense of place? What happened to our spirit of place? We're not asking to get rid of visitors from the restaurants or the main street or the trails that we can't walk on anymore because there's so many visitors. We're not asking for that. They're just asking for, give us our neighborhoods, give us our homes back so that we can actually enjoy living in Highlands that we have helped support for all these years. And so it's not, to me anyway, if you're just using, well, we could just use economics to see who gives us more. Visitors, I mean, that's been the argument, is the visitors, we're going to tank our economy if we don't have the visitors to come in here. Well, what do we get every year in sales tax? 1.3 million, 1.4 million or something like that? I can show you a 990 from one of our nonprofits right now that pays that much annually support from the residents. So if you don't, so you say, what are the consequences? Then we don't do it. Then they don't want to be here anymore. How many, I can't be the only one that has people tell me, oh no, I don't go back to my home in Charleston anymore. The short-term rental people ran me out. Or true, or a guy who told me just a couple months ago, oh no, we don't go back to St. Pete anymore. The short-term rental people ran me out. We don't enjoy living there anymore. Okay, so are you going to turn this into a short-term rental place? Or are you going to give them at least some place that the residents can live, that they don't have to worry about short-term rentals? It's not like Highlands is only supported by the people inside Highlands. The short-term rental people, there is no regulation in Macon County. They can go right outside, a mile down the road, and do exactly what they want to do, and the county of Macon won't care. But I don't think it's unreasonable to have some place in this end of the county, or in the county anywhere, that you could live and not have to be worried about short-term rental next to you. And I'm not saying short-term rental people are bad people. They're fine people, but they're on vacation, which is a totally different mindset than if you are here to live. You know, it's kind of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas kind of attitude. They don't really care because there's no consequence to it, okay? They're not trying to be mean or trying to be bad or trying to do it, but you can't have them learn the rules because, number one, nobody learns from reading rules anymore. But they're not the same every weekend. So you're going to have the same garbage problems. You're going to have the same party problems. You're going to have the same noise problems. You're going to have the same parking problems because they're not the same anymore. Whereas if you get neighbors, then they learn what the neighbors want and will accept and don't like, and you can just have a discussion and you don't have it anymore. Now, so we said at the beginning when we did this 2 years ago that amortization was still on the books because it was one of those things that they've been the residents have been complaining about what's going on in their neighborhoods for 6-8 years. And we always put it off because we didn't know what the state legislature was going to do. And we finally said, okay, if you're going to wait for the state legislature, none of us will be on the board anymore because they will never get anything done. So when we finally did it, we always said that there was going to be, that amortization was still on the table, but we've done it this way. And then when you amortize something, we're not actually telling them that they can't rent. We're just telling them that you have to rent at a rate that doesn't impact your neighborhood anymore. It's like, yeah, I don't know why they use this analogy if you drive your car and then take your car away from you if you amortize it. No, you just have to obey a limit law. You know, you can't zoom down on a road that's built for 35 miles an hour at 50 miles an hour. Now you can rent, you just have to rent at a rate that does not impact the neighborhood. Frankly, the neighborhoods don't want you to rent at all or want you to rent longer term than that. But I think it's reasonable for us to say a 30-day seasonal renter will be a resident and put more value to the community, become part of the community than just visitors. And I have no problem with visitors. I like visitors. I sit at the nature center, so I see visitors and tell them how to get up Sunset or where the next waterfall is, or, you know, that snake, no, is not poisonous. It doesn't worry about it. So I don't have any problem with visitors. I'm pleasant to visitors. I just think if there's a problem, the way to take care of it is to separate the people who are creating the problem. Okay? We're not telling them not to come. They're going to have plenty of places, whether they go to Broadview Acres or Horse Cove or Rolling Acres or Wildwood or, you know, any of those places. There's plenty of places to short-term rent. There is no place right now that doesn't have an option of not having short-term rentals there. And I don't think it's unreasonable for us to be able to say, you can actually buy a home here and you're guaranteed you won't have a short-term rental next to you. And yet I saw you frowning about the clubs. Well, we had the letter from the guy on North Bearpin Mountain Road, which is Highlands Falls. So I assume that they're letting them do it.
They are.
See?
Yeah, but it's their HOA
Okay,
decision.
You were
No,
like,
I was trying to figure out what all the clubs, because there's a lot of communities in the town that actually have, that actually have regulations against it, that do have HOAs. So I just.
Yeah, but HOAs are much different than a zoning.
No, 100% agree.
Regulation.
100% agree.
Yeah, and they don't really have the enforcement abilities that we do. I mean, the Russell versus Donaldson lawsuit was an HOA, and that was, and just unless your specific language is such, it's basically, you can't do it, and unless, some of them, if you're just not 100%, you can't
No,
do
And
it.
many HOAs,
Yeah, I
their
understand that.
covenants were drawn up years before this came in.
Before this came
And they're
up.
in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Town.
So we're the HOA for the town of Highlands, basically. We're basically saying,
Right.
because we have the ability to do zoning, is let's give these residents who are actually very valuable to our community, someplace where they feel like they don't have to fight this fight all the time. So I would move that we adopt the amortization amendment to the UDO as it has been presented.
And Michael, would you come up? I want to make sure that your motion comports with.
I don't have the exact motion, or I don't have the exact language in front of
me. Well, I do.
Sure. Yeah, if you would
Okay.
like to read that.
This is 6.5.18 short-term rentals. This is B. This is the existing language, and then I'll tell you when the new language come in. Notwithstanding anything in this UDO short-term rentals in operation as of September 15th, 2022 are non-conforming uses in R1 and R2 zoning districts. New language until September 15th, 2027. After September 15th, 2027, short-term rentals are not permitted in R1 or R2 zoning districts, and all short-term rentals in those districts must be discontinued.
Okay.
And I can make the statement. As you know, the planning board agreed that it is consistent with our community plan, okay? And we don't have any obligation legally. There's an act in 160D that says we don't have to do what the planning board says. And I've always argued the planning board's not elected. Okay. I think the residents and the voters have over the last two elections made it pretty clear what they would like to have happen. Maybe we don't get in, maybe it goes to court and we can't do it, but it will never get done if we don't at least try.
Okay. You've made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
I'd also like to make my comments as well.
Go right ahead.
Okay, first off, I just want to thank everybody that weighed in on this issue. And I read every single comment and letter that was submitted and tried to look at this objectively and from various perspectives. And I appreciate the time that everybody that spent on making your voice heard. So the opinions and passions that that have gone into this show just how much we all love this community and care about the future of it. The one thing that I personally have continued to hear people say is the town board is considering amortization again, as if it went away and we've come back to it. But the fact of the subject of amortization never went away. When the original ordinance was introduced in 2022, it has amortization provision in it, which simply states you can't rent your home for any amount of time less than 30 days. However, that was when we were being told that the state of North Carolina was going to introduce their own legislation, then known as Senate Bill 667, that would supersede whatever the town decided on its regulation of short-term rentals. So for this reason, we put the amortization provision on pause, but passed the ordinance stopping new short-term rentals from entering the market. So this was a win for existing short-term rentals because they didn't have to deal with any new competition, but it wasn't fair to everyone else who owns a home that wasn't renting. Property rights should be the same for all landowners. And that is why I don't view the current ordinance as a fair compromise. After the initial 12-month stay, the Senate never acted on Senate Bill 667. We even agreed after that to extend the stay for another 12 months. Again, we wanted to be patient and see if North Carolina would pass its own legislation that would settle this debate once and for all. But again, a second year, the state never passed legislation on short-term rentals. And since 2022, there's even far more awareness of the complexity of the short-term rental issue and their potential impact on the community. So for the last couple of weeks, I've reflected on the short-term rental debate and the big picture of Highlands. I thought about everything from the differences that I've experienced in the short term that my wife and I moved to Highlands 25 years ago, to the future goals and needs of the town to keep us moving in a sustainable fashion. I reflected on my own experience as a commissioner and all the topics that have come before us in the 13 years that I've served in this capacity. About 15 years ago, I served on the Chamber of Commerce board for 4 years and found that time interesting because I learned a lot about the needs of our business community. When I was first elected to the town board, I came in thinking I was going to be the most business-friendly commissioner because after all, that's what I thought was most important. I'll never forget in my first term as a commissioner, there was a townhome community that was under construction, and that if the town board allowed that developer to encroach on the setback, they were able to build an additional unit or two. Now, I apologize, I don't remember the exact specifics of it. The owner of the neighboring home that was to be affected by this was present at the meeting and asked the board not to consider this. But despite that, I voted in favor of that developer because I thought at the time that business and more property tax income was going to be the way that moved Highlands forward. In the 13 years that I've served in this capacity, again, that's the one vote that I regret the most. Over the years, my perspective on things have changed and it has evolved. Business is important and it always will be, but so is the character of our neighborhoods that we call home. This is the line that I'm not willing to cross anymore. That is the business and that's business in our neighborhoods. It is one area I feel strongly that should remain what it is, consistent with our community comprehensive plan. In addition, I've always believed that Highlands should defend its ordinances. If a town doesn't defend its ordinances because of legal threats or else, what do we really have? It's only been a few years ago that the town was involved in a lawsuit against a resident that used their property for purposes other than what the zoning designation allowed. We held to our ordinance and we were sued. Yes, the lawsuit cost money, but it was the right thing to do regardless of the outcome. Again, our ordinances are worth fighting for. In this case, our ordinance has stated single-family residential, no overnight accommodations. So I fully understand that whatever we decide tonight, we will more than likely be sued and that lawsuit will cost money. This isn't the first time the town's been involved in a lawsuit, and it likely won't be the last. We've had the benefit of being advised by legal counsel, and we understand the potential ramifications of that lawsuit. And I can assure you the town is not going to go bankrupt. Courts exist for this very reason, to help settle cases where both parties disagree on the interpretation of the law. And I feel that we owe it to our residents to at least try amortization and get the commercial activity out of our residential neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. Any other statements? And Bob, because there are legal implications, our motion, is that in order and ready for us to move forward on a vote?
It is, Mayor.
We need to-
Okay.
He seconded.
He seconded it? Hearing no further.
I have one more point to
Okay.
kind of support what Brian was saying about everybody in a zone should be the same. There is actually a state law. This is 160D 703 zoning districts. C, it's uniformity within districts, except as authorized by the foregoing. All regulations shall be uniformly for each class of or kind of building throughout each district. Okay, so basically we've kind of made a specialized class by allowing not just one or two things that are grandfathered in, but a whole class of people that are grandfathered in. And you know, frankly, I don't know that there's going to be any economic, I can't say that, but the economics of what their loss might be is mitigated because they'll have had 5 years to recoup any investments. housing prices are probably still going to go up. And now I'd be able to advertise it as being bought in a residential area. You won't have any real short-term rentals. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 5 years? I was confused by,
Well, we already have 2 years.
well,
They've already had 2 years.
from an amortization standpoint.
But it'll be an
Understandable.
additional 3 years that they would be able to recoup any investments that they had.
Okay. I'm gonna call the question then. All in favor amending, the ordinance for amortization, which Commissioner Patterson has made the motion to do? Would you please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye? And then opposed? Okay, and the motion carries 4-1.
And I'd like to make the motion that it is consistent with our community comprehensive plan.
Okay, we got a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye, and then opposed. All right, 4-1, the motion carries. All right, that is at the end of our agenda. So I will now entertain a motion for adjournment.
Discuss the closed session outcome, we said?
No, we're not.
There's nothing to say.
Nope.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.